Don't write, don't text, don't phone. I'd rather be alone. I'm trying to forget you. Trying to forget you. Don't try to find a way. Don't beg, don't lie, don't pray. I'm trying to forget you. Trying to forget you.
Hello, Valencia family, and welcome to spring 2021. I hope you had a great holiday break and a happy New Year's. That song you just heard is Trying to Forget, and it was written and performed by Valencia's college president, Dr. Sandy Shugart, who will be our guest on this episode. Welcome back and welcome to episode 5 of Good Morning Valencia. If you haven't listened to episode 4, Thankful Decisions, yet, make sure to check it out as we reminisced and appreciated the things that we were thankful for at the end of 2020. But we're looking forward to what 2021 has in store for us and what it can bring. So Amanda, what are you looking forward to this year?
First of all, hi, Tim. I actually missed this podcast so much. I'm so happy we're finally back to work. Well, that's a great question, Tim. But before I answer that, I just want to say hello to all of our listeners, and I wish everybody the very best for this semester. Now, back to answering your question, I am really looking forward to graduating by the end of spring. And overall, I really hope this semester goes well and that we all succeed. How about you? What are your thoughts?
I'm looking forward to graduation too. I graduate in the summer, and I'm really excited for it. And it seems like many of us are in a time of transition. Today, we have a special guest who has impacted Valencia as a whole, and we are definitely going to miss him. This morning, we have the honor to have our Valencia College president, Dr. Sandy Shugart. Dr. Sandy Shugart will be transitioning from Valencia, but never from our Valencia family. As we move on to other endeavors, it's always important to leave a footprint. We are thankful to have him today as we discuss the importance of leaving a legacy.
Thank you for taking some time off your busy schedule, Dr. Sugar, and for being with us today. It's an honor to have you be part of our podcast. Dr. Sugar, you are a singer, a songwriter, poet, book writer, president, and very involved in the community. Wow, that's a very long and rich resume. And we can tell that you have dedicated your life to education and the arts to get where you're at today. We'd like to ask you, how are you feeling in the beginning of this year? And thank you for being with us once again.
Well, thank you for including me, Amanda and Tim. I'm glad to be here with you and glad to always to have some kind of interaction with our students. I'd much rather be wandering around on campus and bothering students in the library or one of the many little restaurants we have, but this is the best we can do, and I thank you for doing it. So hi, and thanks for including me. And it's been an interesting year for a lot of us, and I won't pull any punches about this. It's been a hard year for me. I lost both my parents to COVID this year. My father back in April, my mother in October, and they were in our care in a nursing home here in Winter Garden, where we moved to be close to them so we could take care of them. So it's been a season of loss for us. And in a sense, the decision to retire represents a little bit of a loss as well, loss of identity, loss of career. I've been president of Valencia for a long time and been a senior leader in higher education for almost 40 years, and it's hard to let go of that. I'll still be busy in retirement, but and have other things to do that are relevant. But so I'm feeling a little bit of loss, but I'm also feeling blessed in several ways. One is that the real core values that make Valencia who we are held up really strongly through the challenges of the last year. What the faculty and staff did starting in March, how the students responded so courageously and with such commitment to stick with their work. I think those are really powerful things, and I've been blessed by those. And I'm feeling hopeful for the next year. It's nice to see that the vaccines are rolling out in record time. That's a good thing. Of course, the vaccine doesn't fix anything, only immunization does. So we've got to get millions and millions of people immunized, and then we can return to something that feels a little more normal and a little more directly connected. Like you guys, I'm a people person, and I like to see faces, and I like to read their nonverbal communication, and I like to listen long to people, and I miss that kind of interaction. Just going to a restaurant and being there for 3 hours and enjoying the conversation, for example. Hard to give that up for a while. But I'm so hopeful for the next year. I think the corner is not being turned yet, but I can see it out in front of us, and we're going to turn it this year. And I'm prayerfully hopeful that by the fall term, we'll have a much more robust and face to face engagement with our students and with one another.
I can really appreciate what you're saying because I'm a club president here at Valencia, and I've had some people within our group say how they've lost their own family members, and everyone has their own unique story during this time that we've been facing. And I think all of us as a student body can appreciate how Valencia has been looking out for all of their students by really making sure that the online class situation was dealt with and handled very effectively, if I may add. And because of how we've all been online, I think it's important that we're all able to share our own stories.
Mm.
And just like everyone has their own unique story during this time, we would love to hear your story, and we would love to have that conversation with you. So, our very first question for you today, Dr. Sandy Shugart, could you please walk us through your journey to becoming Valencia's college president? How did you get there? What are some of the things that we may not see in your resume?
Well, I'm an old guy, so that could turn into a really long story. And old guys love to talk about themselves, so I'm going to have to be careful here. I've been at Valencia for 21 years and came. My first day at work was January 17th, 2000. It's been a splendid time here. I've loved it. Before that, I was president of a college in Houston, Texas, called North Harris College. A little small, about the size of our West Campus, actually, about 20,000 students or so in the northern margins of Houston. And I enjoyed that work as well. I was there for 8 years and worked with a wonderful team. We spent a lot of energy connecting with the community, which had changed so dramatically since the founding of the college 40 years earlier. The college was losing touch. So that was our work there. Before that, I was in North Carolina for quite a long time, 8 years as the chief academic officer of the community college system in North Carolina. It's a system of 58 colleges all over the state, and also working as a policy advisor to a governor on matters of education and economic development. That's the career story. And those are the steps I took. None of that was planned. None of that was intended. I didn't really have a career goal, career plan. I went to college because I had questions and I was curious and I wanted to learn and explore. And I just assumed that work would present itself along the way. The band would make it, or I'd be the first ever financially successful poet or something. So I just went to college because I loved learning. My intellectual fires got lit early, and I wasn't checking any boxes. I wasn't building a career plan. I was leaning into the questions I had. And the questions were the big questions around life. What makes humans valuable? Where does human value come from? Where does everything come from? What gives life meaning? How do you know the truth is true? What makes truth true? Big questions like that. And I loved college because I could explore and learn those things. I majored in chemistry, not because I wanted to be a chemist, although that might have been fun, but because I was interested in how scientists think about truth. And so it was really my door into philosophy of science. Science as a way of conducting inquiry and thinking about reality. Um, and I thought I was going to end up doing a doctorate in philosophy, focused on philosophy of science, and life intervened. I fell in love, and she didn't want to move to Chicago, especially after visiting there. And I chose love over philosophy. And she's still my wife of almost 45 years now. Um, and so I came back to Carolina and thought, I've got to make a living if I'm going to get married. So I decided to teach for a chemistry teachers are always in short supply. So I thought I'll teach for a couple of years and figure this out. And meanwhile, someone will pay me to be here. So I got a job as a chemistry teacher and a track coach at a high school north of Atlanta near Marietta. Had a wonderful time there for 2 years. Loved the students, really enjoyed teaching, although I worked probably harder than I ever have in my life to be a teacher. It's hard work, especially those early years. Um, and I found a new set of questions that interested me. I remember I had thought, what makes the truth true? How do you know the truth is true? The new question was, how do you know anything? I mean, I saw students who learned well. I saw students who didn't learn well. There was no biological reason that I could surmise that caused that. How does this brain thing work? So I went back to graduate school at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, go Heels, and the home of, Michael Jordan and a lot of other wonderful ball players. And I pursued that question and studied really cognitive science there and how cognitive theories, what they have to tell us about how the brain might help us learn. And it was the early days really of looking into the brain with new techniques like MRIs and so on. And so we had these really grainy pictures of the brain being activated by simple tasks. It was really very primitive. But I learned a lot and loved every minute of it. And before I knew it, I had a doctorate. And they told me I couldn't go to school anymore. So I had to get a job. And I had an argument in a seminar with a government official, an argument in the best sense, where you're supposed to debate. He called me the next day and said, I want you to come to work for me. And I thought, work, job, ooh, yuck. But my wife wanted to go to graduate school. So I said, okay, I'll come talk to you about it. He was the science advisor to the governor of North Carolina, and he hired me to be on his team as a policy advisor in science. And then it turned into education and economic development and other things. So I stumbled into that. And then about a year and a half later, I got a call from the head of the community college system there, a former governor as well, who just called me over and said, I want you on my team. And I said yes to him. And I don't think he knew how young I was. I was 25. And he hired me as the chief academic officer to a system that had over 800,000 students in it. And of course, I didn't know anything. But one of the great things about knowing you don't know anything is that you're a really better student that way. And there were plenty of teachers willing to teach me the job. That was about 1983, I guess. And you know the rest of the history now. So I think my story of communist is I didn't aspire to be a college president. I still don't. I just enjoy the work and love the questions you get to ask. And I'm a constant learner. And I'm surrounded by wonderful teachers. It's just a great place to be.
I'm having to hold my breath here because I really want to cry. You just made me emotional a couple of times, Dr. Shugart. But one thing that I think it's amazing about you is how you have, first, how you talk to the students. Tim and I, we are both students, and you just have this soft tone and you just make that connection, and we feel so close to you. Wow, I'm really okay. Back to the
Amanda, old guys like me aren't supposed to make young women cry anymore.
It's the wisdom. It's how you have just a really good heart, and I better focus on our next question, or I'm gonna start crying here a river. um, I want to be like you, Dr. Sugar. You definitely inspire me. I'm gonna stop talking because I'm just getting emotional. And getting into our second question, we know you as our president for 21 years, like you said, and in order to have this position of excellence, and to be able to do your job in a very professional way, in a very meaningful way, we know that it's not an easy path, right? So we want to hear from you. What are some of the greatest challenges that you dealt with while you were in this Valencia journey? And how did you manage to navigate them?
Wow, you guys ask hard questions. So there, overall, I would just say the whole journey with Valencia has been joyful, fun, engaging. I don't have any complaints, but a 21-year canoe trip without any rapids would be kind of boring, wouldn't it? So you bet there's been some white water. And I enjoy the white water. I think it stretches us and makes the work more interesting. We learn things about ourselves and about others and the world and so on. So there's been plenty of challenges. Um, you know, 90% of them are person challenges, people challenges, folks who get lost along the way, um, folks who've been hurt and still carry the wound, um, folks who are good people but in the wrong job, folks who disagree sharply with one another, even though I love them both and aren't getting along with each other. All those things happen in the world of work, no matter where you are. And I would say my heart is consumed really with the persons that you work with for the most part. Uh, a part of what I have to offer to Valencia, what I give, is a way of doing work that's collaborative, that pulls people together and says, we can figure this out together. And that's hard work and not always successful. So some folks find it confusing and difficult. Um, it's difficult when there's a lot at stake and there's a lot of risks over the budget, for example. So the college has always struggled to get the resources that the state ought to be providing it, but never lets that be an excuse for not being the best we can be. Um, and then lastly, I'd say the constant challenge for me in leadership is me. Self-awareness and self-management, um, not letting the challenge, the sort of uh, pressure and reactivity that attends being responsible in the world to deform you. Um, the book you mentioned earlier that I wrote was really about that. The issue is when you're seriously responsible for other people in the world, there's stress and difficulty and conflict and all those things happen all the time, as well as joy and fun and all those things. And what you do every day, that work, the tools you use to do it are shaping you. We think we're in charge and we're shaping the world. The world's shaping us. And if you're not careful, you will wake up someday and find that you are misshapen, deformed, that your character's twisted and unhealthy. And so I would say a really big part of the work, partly because the president is in a powerful position and a position that gets a lot of attention, more than it deserves, frankly. It's easy to get impressed with yourself and all that sort of stuff. Um, I think being really mindful of just being yourself and growing into yourself rather than being um, misshapen by what you do every day. Um, Fortunately, in a place like Valencia that has such a deep servant ethic, it's easy to do that. And there are plenty of people around that I love and who love me who can pull me aside and say, you were kind of strange in that meeting. Are you sure you're yourself today? and challenge me. And so I've had lots of partners in that. Um, Lastly, I'd say um, what gives life real power is purpose. And I don't know that I would be happy or would flourish in a business organization whose purpose is just to grow wealth or to add shareholder value or to do the things that businesses do. Those are worthy things to do. I get it. But I'm so deeply nourished by the work at Valencia because our purpose is so powerful. And you're it. The college, the only story the college has to tell is tens of thousands of personal stories, every one unique, every one a person of infinite sacred value, everyone somebody with their own trajectories and destinies and desires and dreams. And we get to step in with them and say, there's more to you than you even know. You're more precious and wonderful and have more capacity and potential than even you know. Let us help you bring that out. That's a really useful purpose.
I'm getting three words here from listening to you talk. One of them is self awareness, the other is purpose, and the third is perseverance. And I think that since you're embodying these characteristics and these traits, that it can really seep into the faculty and into the students here at Valencia. Because something that my family always taught me was that leadership matters. And hearing you talk about how you've been self-aware, understanding that Valencia is just bigger than you, is bigger than the presidency and the position, than people wanting to try to seek you out because of your position. But really, it's about the students and the people that you're serving. And I really think that is so important, even while you're telling your story.
I agree. I think um, our culture has tended towards thinking of leaders in heroic terms. What we really want is someone to come save us. If we can just elect the right person or hire the right person or follow the right person, everything will be okay. And I think that's an immature aspiration. Um, Leadership is, at the end of the day, is mostly character. Their leaders come in all shapes and sizes with all kinds of gifts, strengths. They're so different from one another. And so these how-to books on leadership always bother me. Here are the 6 things you have to do, the 7 habits, the 9 really good ideas, the 4 characteristics, the 10 laws. All that stuff just sort of bugs me because I have met every kind of human being imaginable in leadership roles who are each of them amazing and also horrible sometimes. That's just the human diversity thing. And I think that's a good thing. What is common is that the leaders that are worth following aren't worth following because they're larger than life or charismatic or attractive or something like that. The ones that are really worth following are the ones whose character you can count on, who will always put a mission ahead of self, who understand their own flaws, who know how to forgive and know they need to be forgiven, um, who are willing to listen to other people's stories and learn from them. And at the end of the day, are motivated not by ambition, but by love.
I think that's so important, Doctor, when you reference the importance of character. And then I would ask you this question, because I understand that you've picked up from your previous president, and now Dr. Polinsky is going to be picking up after your legacy. And I wanted to emphasize, or I wanted to ask you if you could emphasize the importance of adding to the foundation that was previously laid before you.
Yeah, that's a great question, Tim. There is a lot to be said for continuity. So Valencia's best work is built on a handful of ideas, really big ideas. For example, one of them is the college is what the students experience, period. It's what they experience that matters, not what we experience. There are lots of colleges in the world who are very aware of their experience and who they are and how wonderful they might be. Sometimes they forget that it's not for them, it's for their students. So I think Valencia's got a really deep connection to that notion. The students are the center of the college, not us. And there are another 6 or 8 big ideas like that have been important to our work, and they don't change. How you live them out in the organization tactically, the processes you use, the technologies you adopt, the programs you offer, the ways that you project services to people, those things ought to evolve and change. But the fundamental ideas, that every person matters, for example, those are not things that are mutable. So the continuity is important on those deep value issues. And I would say Dr. Plinsky is amazing. She has exceeded expectations in everything I've ever asked her to do. Um, and she is deeply grounded in those values. There's an old saying, I think it came from Leonardo da Vinci, but I'm not sure, that says the student who doesn't surpass his teacher has failed his teacher. And I have no doubt that Dr. Plinsky will surpass me in every way. And in doing that, she only brings honor to me as her teacher these past 10 years.
I wish this could be a 24-hour podcast because as you speak, there are just so many other questions that come up to my head, and I just want to hear more and more. But I also think that Dr. Plinsky is going to do an amazing job, especially having you as a mentor, a person who has so much, has so much character and such a good heart, and you are so close to the students. So I think that she learned from the best. And as we move into the end of this conversation, I'm not going to prompt you with any other questions. We are going to give you the space and the time you need to share with our students something that's in your heart. So, what is it that you have to say to our Valencia students before you leave? And the floor is yours, Dr. Shugart.
Well, thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Tim. I look forward to seeing you both before you commence, graduate, however we pull that off this year. I look forward to seeing both of you face to face again. So there's so many things I could say, but I will say just one. You should know that the faculty, your teachers, care deeply about you, even when that doesn't always look like it, even when they are very busy, or they're stressed by multiple demands on them, or they're holding the line in rigor because they know you can do better than you've done. But they're also, to be a faculty member, to teach at this level, particularly in a college like ours, where we believe every student can learn everything we have to teach. We're also flirting all the time with a deep kind of disappointment. And that disappointment comes partly from students whose lives are complicated and they can't persist. So they pull out, they run out of money, life happens to them, and we hate to see them go. We want them to come back. But much more from students who continue to show up, but without their whole heart. And the most common experience of that is students who occasionally give the impression that what they have learned to care about isn't the learning, but the grade. I can get a great conversation with your professors anytime I want by asking this question: what would it take for our students to care more deeply about their learning than about their grade? And of course, We taught you to care about grades. The system teaches you to do that, but you don't have to be manipulated that way. My words to students at any college or university would be the gift before you isn't a credential or a career path, it's a life of learning. It's what sets human beings apart in some ways, that we can ponder all these questions. And so I would encourage you, while you're getting yourself equipped to make a living, don't forget to be equipped to make a life. And the equipment you need, among other things, is a love for learning itself. It's a wonderful thing uh, to meet a nurse who also loves and knows a lot about opera, or to meet an engineer who paints, or to meet a lawyer who reads deeply in American history and is really curious about how we got here, and so on. These things are worth knowing. And so I would say to you, Amanda, Tim, and to all of your fellow students, if you can find a way to cultivate a real hunger and delight in learning for learning's sake, that will serve your whole life much more than your skills in your first 2 years of employment.
What I'm seeing here from from what you're telling us is that you want us to have a posture of learning, a posture of curiosity, really.
Hmm.
So I would ask you, have you what would be your special story or one of your favorite stories about seeing this within a student at Valencia or just during your course within your life?
Wow. So, um, one of the wonderful things about working in a place like Valencia is that you've got an encyclopedia of those stories. Almost every day, I meet a student who has a story to tell that way. And especially if you're willing to just ask, tell me your story, which is my favorite question when I'm on campus. Tell me your story. But the best of those I find are when the faculty member and the student have a story to tell together. And often it's about um, a student who really does have that desire, but not belief in herself. Lots and lots of our students come to us believing that they're defective, that they don't really have the equipment everybody else has, that they are not able to learn at the same, and they're sort of fearful that someone's going to find that out about them, like on the first exam. And I would tell you that um, all the students have the equipment. You all have the brain cells and the brain chemistry to learn everything that we have to teach. You may not have all of the same experiences, but that can be fixed. And that you got to believe in yourself. So my favorite story is actually through a faculty member or two. Um, and that was, we did what's called an identity study. It's a marketing thing. And the identity study was you hire an outside consultant and they interview people in the community to find out what they think about Valencia College. When you think of Valencia, what do you think? And then they also interview people inside the college. When you think of Valencia, what do you think? And then they hold the two up side by side. And the idea is to make sure that your self image and their external image are somehow connected to each other. And if they're not, you've got work to do, right? So don't kid yourself. When she finished, I was her last interview, this young woman. And the last question she asked me in her last interview, and she asked this of everybody, was, what is it that makes Valencia special? And my response after just a little thought was, it's the people. The people here make it special. Everybody's got buildings, everybody's got books, everybody's got curriculum, everybody's got computers, but the people make the difference. And she thanked me. And that was the end of the interview. And then she put her notebook down and closed it and said, okay, I'm done. We can talk now. And I said, well, um, what do you think? And she said, well, I'd like to work here. And I said, well, that's flattering. Why? She said, I've never been any place in all of the studies I've done where the people were clearer about why they're here, their purpose for being here. And I was flattered by that. And I said, and what's the best answer you got to that last question? What makes Valencia special? And she said, well, it wasn't yours. And I smiled and said, well, whose was it? She said, there were two faculty in here in the previous two interviews, and they both said the same thing, and it's the best answer. I said, okay, what's the answer? What makes Valencia special? And she said, our students are amazing. Dope slap time. I thought, of course that's true. Our students are amazing. It's them, not us. Our students are amazing. Now, here's the trick. Everybody's students are amazing, but not everybody knows that. Every human being is amazing, but not everybody knows that, even themselves. Even the people who are not behaving particularly amazing ways have amazingness deep down inside them. In my faith tradition, we call that being made in the image of God. But there are lots of ways of describing it. There's something transcendent and valuable and amazing about every human being. And our job at Valencia is to know that and to call that out of you. So I would say to our students, just know deep down inside you, there's amazingness. We'd like to partner with you to call that out of you and help you to develop it as far as you can.
Wow.
Wow.
That was a learning experience. I was just getting so enthralled by. I'm speechless, Amanda.
Well, thanks for including me in
Well,
today's.
one thing I can say is that as a student, this is my last semester, and I loved Valencia so much. And I'm from a different country. I've been to, I have a different degree, and I decided to change careers. And when I started at Valencia, I just felt so welcomed. And everything that you said, Dr. Shugart, is just true about what Valencia is and the image that Valencia reflects. We can feel it, and the students are amazing. And I'm definitely gonna miss it. I forgot my English. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore.
Well, maybe you should
It
come back
has
to teach
probably
Valencia.
been my, who knows? But Valencia has probably been my best because I just learned who I was as a student and as a professional. So I really learned what you were talking about, that interest in learning and being curious and wanting to understand why, why am I learning this? What's the purpose? How am I going to use that in a meaningful way in my life? So I'm definitely going to miss Valencia. I feel that this is a goodbye semester because by the end of spring, I'm going to spread my wings and fly, and I'll have Valencia in my heart.
Yep. Me
and
too.
Everything I learned.
Me too, Amanda. We'll be out there flying together.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to, to sit down and talk about our experiences in the future when COVID, when we're done with this COVID and everything is safe.
Well, that's why we have an alumni association. So be
Definitely.
sure to and stay connected.
100%.
Wow, this was an incredible conversation. Dr. Sandy Shugart, I'd like to thank you for your words of wisdom. You've really encouraged us to think about the legacy that we'll leave behind, especially in regard to character and how we treat others and how we allow ourselves to see ourselves for what we really are. We may have some flaws, but deep down, there's something on the inside of us that can cause for us to do amazing and great things. And I really love that word of encouragement you gave us today. I truly do appreciate that.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for doing this, and have a great semester.
Thank you so much. And sadly, that's a wrap. Thank you, Dr. Shugart, for being with us. And make sure our listeners out there, you stay tuned for our next episode where we will be talking about ways to get involved at Valencia and how to benefit from the online activities that Student Development and Valencia College has to offer you. It's next Wednesday. You do not want to miss it. And to wrap up, we'll leave you with another great song by Dr. Shugart and the January Band titled On the Streets of Your Dreams. See you soon, Valencia family. Take care.
No more long walks, no more late night pillow talks, done with shared books, done with little knowing looks, all the small things that say we belong together. Somehow, one day your twisted heart began to stray. Somehow you believed the time had come for you to leave. Now you disappeared and left me no clues to follow. You're not hanging around our old places. I look for you in crowds, just see stranger faces. You think you're rid of me, gone from your memory, but you'll be seeing me. You'll be seeing me on the streets of your dreams. You'll be seeing me on the streets of your dreams.